just with regard to that 6,000 figure with the Qatari workers' deaths, I think that's slightly misleading in that it's not as a direct result of construction. It could be like, for example, someone might have had a...
It doesn't say, though. We didn't say it's construction.
No. Eh?
We didn't say
I did say it. I did say.
Oh, you did?
Because,
okay.
Yeah, I did say this is directly what Guardian says. That this is since the Qatar took upon building infrastructure regarding or post winning the nomination for 2022 Football World Cup.
Right, but not necessarily because of construction work.
Yeah, because it could be COVID, for example. So COVID, for example, they would be included within those figures. So if a construction worker died of COVID, he would be included within those figures. So I don't think that's an accurate representation of how many people died as a direct result of construction. I think the figures that have been pointed with regard to the direct result of construction, from what I've heard during the World Cup, I think it was 3.
3? Like 1, 2, 3?
3 as a direct result of construction work and accidents happening.
People. You mean 3,000 people?
3 people.
3 people. Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's the case.
Let me check.
No, because
that would never be the case. So you're saying, so they're saying that 6,497 people died due to COVID and some other stuff.
No. I'm just saying that 3 people that they're reporting died as a direct result of the actual construction work that's being carried out. So, say for example, say someone fell from a tall building, etc. Errors.
That's bullshit, though, because I've actually watched the number of videos, documentaries that I've watched. I mean, the people have just died directly being there. So a lot more people have died of heat stroke.
Heat stroke, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So there's plenty of evidence, and obviously a lot of these people.
Do you know how many people died of heat stroke in terms of numbers?
I don't know exactly how many, but I'm saying that the testimonies that I was looking at, I mean, I think there was 2 people who died of heat stroke. There was one person who died of a heart attack who was 37 years old, and he had called a couple of days before to his wife, and he was begging his wife that I want to come home, but they haven't given my passport to me. And she was like, okay, just leave everything. Don't worry about it. We'll work it out and come back. And then she got a call that he died of a heart attack. So the squalid working conditions, etc. So all of those things are responsible.
How would the current working conditions, say for example, what working condition led to that heart attack? If there isn't a direct causal link. What evidence do you have that he was overworked?
Because 38-year-old people don't just die of heart attacks, and majority of the people. Hang on.
My uncle had.
We all had a friend who slipped down the stairs and broke everything. No, that's not how it works. Okay, listen to this. So, the majority of workers are dying who are under 45 or under 50 or otherwise healthy age, and this is dying of causes that the Qatari government is not even doing postmortem or doing any. What do you call it? I think it's called postmortem. They're not carrying out those tests. They're not sending the bodies back. So there's so much more. So I would rather trust Reuters and Guardian than Qatari figures.
But have you actually read the whole Have you read the article, or are you just reading that figure from top?
I'm gonna read something for you. I'm gonna read it for you guys to fact check, and I think maybe. This will shed some light on it. Okay, so claim the mortality rate among these communities is within the expected range for the size and demographic of the population. Okay, so it's misleading. Let's see. According to the Qatari government, 1,500 deaths per year among 2 million people is a normal average mortality rate. Firstly, it should be stated that according to the World Health Organization, general mortality rates for migrant workers in Qatar are lower than they are in their home countries. In fact, even the mortality rate among Qatari citizens is higher than that among migrant workers in Qatar. However, given that the migrant workers in Qatar are not representative of the general populations in their home countries or in Qatar, such figures are misleading. Okay, this is actually a more complicated then. So 60. So that 15,000 number is completely misleading according to this fact check, right? So the claim that the World Cup in Qatar has cost the lives of 6,500 or even as many as 15,000 migrant workers, that fact check is, and this is by DW, which is a pretty good fact checking website. The DW is a pretty good source. So it says that's false. The widely reported figure of 15,000 migrant workers' deaths is in connection with the World Cup in Qatar, originates in 2021 Amnesty International report. Just as widely reported is the figure of 6,500, first published by The Guardian. So what's the actual, although these figures have been used to back up this claim multiple times since these reports were published, neither Amnesty International nor The Guardian ever claimed that these people died on stadium construction sites or indeed even in explicit context of the 2022 World Cup. Both figures refer merely to non-Qataris of various nationalities and in various occupations who have died in Qatar in the past decade. The figure of 15,000 quoted by Amnesty International was obtained from official statistics from the Qatari authorities themselves and referred to the number of foreigners who died in the country between 2010 and 2019. Between 2011 and 2020, it was 50. Okay, so yeah, that 15,000 number, it seems to be misleading. But let me see the explanation of this. Migrant workers in Qatar are fundamentally healthy upon arrival. For instance, the population of small children and elderly people. Okay, so this is such statistics also don't include migrant workers who pass away after returning to their home countries in Nepal. Okay, so that whether or not this is a healthy condition or not, like when it comes to mortality rates, it seems pretty hard to determine. The hard work in the Gulf weather conditions combined with the low quantity and low quality drinking water, as reported by those affected, would explain explain this according to health experts in Nepal. All right, so apparently the death rates are they're higher than what they should be. Okay. Because we have data that shows that they're higher than they should be, and we have data that we show that lower than they should be, and both of these data are misleading. So you have to actually look at the conditions that they're in, and the fact checkers are saying because the conditions that they're in are poor, you could be convinced that mortality rate is higher, right? Just because the mortality rate is lower than, for example, in Nepal, you have to understand that the people who are traveling there, if they're healthier. So if you look at the same health people in Nepal, for example, or in Bangladesh, the mortality rate actually is higher, right? So it's a hard thing to estimate.
Lower,
right?
No, it's lower.
Yeah.
It said it's lower. Though in their home countries, their mortality rate is lower. Yes, I think you said higher.
Well,
it read lower.
No, here. No, hold on. Let's go back.
No, I was. Oh yeah, hang on.
No, in their home country is lower. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So general mortality rates of migrant workers in Qatar are lower than they are in their home country. Yeah, in Qatar they're lower than in their home country. However, this could be also misleading. Okay, so you were like, oh, so Qatar is doing really good then, but no, this could also be misleading because of the things that I mentioned. So neither of these numbers are going to help you figure out.
Yes.
I think it's important to note that it's very difficult to figure out exactly what's related to the work being done. So I mean,
but what you can tell is the work conditions are terrible, right?
I agree. And the fact that they're not allowed to. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
As I'm going to say, up until I think 2018, they were not allowed to unionize as well. And a lot of these people, they're being taken advantage of by recruitment agencies in their home countries who basically withhold their wages and sometimes take their passport away. Yeah, they take their passports away from them. And unfortunately, Qatar's regulations have not been up to scratch in order to ensure that those agencies are appropriately dealing with the people that they're employing. So what's happening now is regulations have come in place since 2017 to try and ensure that the workers are paid, but a lot of work still has to be done. I mean, they're way behind where we are in Western Europe. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say, so even though this article says that, okay, the Amnesty and the Guardian have stepped short of saying that it's directly in result to that, I don't think that these people, obviously, who go there, they just go there for holiday, first of all. These guys are working. Yes, it is complicated, but these people are dying. The second line of that, I mean, what you did say, obviously there was another part of however as well. If you can go up, can you go up as well? It said, go a little bit further up again, I think. Yeah, there. However, given that migrant workers in Qatar are not representatives of the general populations in their home countries or in Qatar, such figures are misleading, which obviously, Ibn Qayyim is back. So, and the number 3 number, if you scroll down, I think that's very misleading as well, that the direct number of people who died, 3. So, yeah, that part is true that after I thought it was 2016, then that when Amnesty and all these people made this hoo-ha about all these people dying in Qatar, then they changed their laws and they said, okay, companies would not be able to hold their passports, or they would not be able to force them to not to go anywhere. For example, if they wanted to have another job, they can't do that anymore. But then I forgot what it was. I think it was Amnesty or some other human rights groups as well. They were saying that, yeah, they have changed the laws, but it hasn't really been implemented.
So the point is that the work conditions are bad, but using this number, this mortality rate number, is going to be misleading, and it's going to take attention away from how bad the work conditions are, right? Because if you use this as ammunition to like, oh, look how bad the work conditions are, and then the people who want to defend Qatar, they were going to come and say like, oh, your numbers are flawed, and they're going to people like, oh my God, so maybe the work conditions are not bad, but they are bad. So maybe I think the best summary is down here. In conclusion, figures referring to fatalities in connection with the 2022 World Cup vary depending on definition, including of where migrant workers come from, where and when they died, and where their deaths can be described as work-related or not. However, given the inconsistencies and shortcomings in Qatar's own official data, a concrete conclusion is impossible to ascertain, which in turn raised the question as to why exactly the Qatari authorities are unable to provide reliable information. All right.
Exactly.
So
that was my point.
Yeah.
That was my point. That you just cannot trust what comes out of Qatar, what comes out of Saudi Arabia, what comes out of these countries.
So we shouldn't. So instead of using these numbers, we should look at the report journalism, the investigative journalism that has gone into these camps, has interviewed a whole bunch of workers that shows that they're past. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair, and this is that's fine. This is why I said that either whether Reuters come up with it or DW comes up with it, France 24 comes up with it, BBC comes up with it, whoever. I would always put my faith on them than the official numbers of what Qatar says.
Yeah, because obviously they won't have access to the official figures. They only have access to the figures that are provided by the Qatari government, and then they extrapolate from that. So, yeah, so investigative journalism is what's important, isn't it? So to assess what's actually going on. But yeah, I agree with you on this one. Just a quick question, if possible, with regard to being attracted to your secretary.
Yeah, sorry, before you go further, I just want to understand. So what you're saying. So you do understand that claims coming from countries like Qatar, they can't be just taken at face value, because I think initially when you came, you said that there could be 3 people who probably died. That
was their figures. The 6,500 is also from their figures, so we shouldn't take that accurate either.
You're right. Harris is right. We shouldn't take that 3 number as well. We shouldn't trust that number.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah.
Okay.
So
people, but hang on. But still, I'm going to try to apply some commonsensical arguments in that. So people like Armin, you, me, when we came to these Western countries, 5 or 6 years later.
I was born here. I didn't come here.
No,
I didn't come here.
I'm talking about Armin.
He said me and he said Armin, you and Armin.
Myself,
he didn't
not
include
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, your accent is too British.
Your accent is pretty telling.
I didn't come on a boat, my friend. Yeah, no worries.
I didn't say that, but so people like Armin and myself who come to these Western countries, our mortality rate is not going to be measured by our home country standards, is it? Like, I don't think so, unless it's some sort of a disease that is hereditary or something. Like your lifestyle, my lifestyle is most likely would be considered Western lifestyle. What we eat, what kind of food we have, or whatever. So we would be put in that category, unless there's some really specific hereditary issues. So when these people go to these Gulf countries as well, so they're not going to be. They should not be looked at. They should have access to the same medical facilities that Qatari citizens have, right? So in case if someone in Nepali village or Pakistani village or Bangladeshi village might not, he could die of cholera or typhoid or some very curable disease in a developed country. And Qatar is a developed country. So people still dying, their mortality should fall much lower in Qatar. But this 15,000 people who died, that number is still coming from Qatar though. Now, okay, fair enough. I'm not saying they all died because of negligence or whatever, but I'm saying that if the numbers are still high, that is still an area of concern. Would you agree, though?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the main issue is you have Qatar. What you have is the citizens. They have access to the
Medical
public health service, so like a national health service they have there for the citizens. Right. You can't get Qatari citizenship unless your father is a Qatari. Right, so it's impossible even for a Westerner to get a Qatari citizenship. So you're left to private medical facilities, similar to what you would be in America, for example. And if you're poor, like some of these workers are, they won't have access to good medical facilities.
But in America, though, if you have a disease, you are taken to the hospital and then you're sent. To
not if you don't have the money, you don't.
You
don't have the money.
Oh, yes, you do.
No, you won't.
Yes. If you're dying of a heart attack, you don't have any money, whether you're an illegal migrant or whatever.
Depends on what you're being sent to the hospital for. If you're about to die, then they're forced to treat you.
Yes.
But if you have like a broken leg, then like you're tough luck.
No, I think
is that how it works in America?
Are you sure? Are you sure even with broken leg though? I don't think so.
Yeah, no,
I don't think
Are you sure about this?
No, United is terrible. If you go to a hospital and you have a broken leg, you either should have money or insurance.
Oh wow. Okay, but anyway, if you're dying though.
Yeah, I mean, if you're dying, if you're like literally dying, they kind of have to. They're forced to like treat you. But then they also send you a bill that bankrupts you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So they screw you. They fuck you afterwards.
Yes.
And I think that would be the way it would work in Qatar as well. Probably, I'm assuming.
Honestly, United States. When it comes to all the advanced countries in the world, United States is at the bottom of the list when it comes to their healthcare.
Yeah, UK. I tell you what, in the UK, right, we have a national health service, right, which basically you get provided everything for free. But look at the waiting times.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going too well at all. No. People are waiting. Yeah. Say for example,
this is when I need to brag about being Canadian here.
I think you need a mixed system where you have some private, some public. I think like France has, for example.
I don't know. Canada seems to have figured it out. So you guys should come to Canada.
Canada seems like a tempting place to go, to be honest.
To have your questions answered on the next live stream, become my patron today. You can do so with as little as $1 a month. Link in the description below.